Hey everyone, so in this video we're going to go through the student transportation section. And this is the first of our general sections, and most of these sections all kind of work alike. So I will go through in every section the basics of doing one of these sections. But you know, in the security assessment, we are starting from the outside and we are working in. And part of starting from the outside is how do your students get to school? How do they depart school? And what security procedures are in place related to student transportation? So there are two ways to get to this section like normal. One is you can click on the student transportation link here, or we can go over to assessment, and then in this main menu over here, click on student transportation. So this section provides basic background information on how students arrive and depart from school, along with some basic information about student and faculty parking. So the first thing you do in any of these general sections is there's a section up here at the top where you're going to check off the different things that are true about this section. Now what this does is this leads us to answering more questions about this section. So if you left all of these checkboxes blank, the only questions you would have for this section is the section overview questions. But in this case, the first thing we're going to say is, does the school have one or more bus drop-off areas? So in our training school, of course, we're going to say the students arrive by bus. Then the school has one or more bus departure areas. So if you arrive with a bus, you depart with a bus. These are separate sections because they're different questions. And sometimes if the buses arrive at a location that's different from where they depart, we're going to ask different questions about bus departure and bus drop-off areas. Okay, the school has one or more automobile drop-off areas. So if parents are dropping off children to school, we're going to click this. If they have one or more automobile pickup areas, we're going to click this one. Okay, so that's related to students who arrive to school via automobile being dropped off. The next section is the school has one or more public transportation stops. Okay, so if you were a city school and let's say a good portion of your students arrive at school with public transportation, you would select this checkbox. The school has one or more student parking lots. So I think the training school we put together is for K through 5. But in this case, I'm just going to check this anyway. If you're a high school and you have student parking lots, and then the school has one or more non-student parking lots. Now this is not necessarily related to student transportation, but since we're talking about parking in this section, we decided to add the non-student parking lots to this section. So I'm going to select this. So now before you go any further with this section, you want to hit the button over here that says Save and Reload. So when you do this, what it's going to do is it's going to tell the survey that we need to add all the questions for all the different sections that we checked here. So I'm going to click on Save and Reload. And now you're going to see up here, you're going to see we have 7 critical areas. These are the areas that we selected, okay? And then now, if we go down the page, you'll see that we now have all these sections that are related to the critical areas that we just added. So, first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into our section overview questions. Now, the first question is, what percentage of your students arrive via school bus? Now, if you said you didn't, if none of them, that's 0 to 20. Now, we're not trying to get exact numbers here, but we're trying to determine the relative weight between the different ways students get to school. So I'm going to say 20 to 40% of our students arrive via school bus. That leads us to the next question, which is what percentage of your students walk to school? So let's say we have 20 to 40% of our students walk to school. Now I may want to put in a note saying only students who live within, I'll just have a distance in 0.5 miles are allowed to walk to school. Okay, so this is a note, and we're going to take this note and we're going to include it in the report. And during the report generation process, these things find a way to get into the report. So I'm going to save the comment. So now I've added a comment. Next one is what percentage of students are dropped off in cars. I'm going to use 20 to 40% in that one again. Now, again, I can add notes if there is something that I want to say about the students that are dropped off in cars. What percentage of students drive to school and park on campus? Well, we're K through 5 in this case. We're going to say 0 to 20%. And then what percentage of students take public transportation to school? We're going to say that's very rare, so we're going to say 0 to 20% there. Okay, so now we've answered questions about the section overview. Now, no matter what you answer up here, you're going to get these section overview questions. Now, the next section is additional and non-student parking lot. This is kind of a weird order. I think I'm going to, I'll do this one first. You've got a lot of questions to answer. Sometimes the order doesn't really matter because nobody is going to sit down and do this entire assessment in one sitting. So we're going to go to the questions. Okay, are students allowed to park in the non-student parking lot? We're going to say no. Must all vehicles be registered with the school? We're going to say yes. Are vehicle barriers in place to prevent unauthorized vehicles from entering the parking lot? Now, again, these are not judgment questions. If you don't have barriers in place, it is quite possible that your necessary level of protection for the school doesn't require there to be barriers in place. So don't look at these questions as, we're trying to trick you or it's going to turn up bad on the assessment. This is just all about answering the question honestly so that when the artificial intelligence and the decision tree and all the scoring models pulled it together, you get the right recommendations. Now you'll notice something else in here. We have an upload photo button. So if you've got these barriers in place, it's always good to take a picture. So you could click here, add a photo. You could drag and drop the files onto here. You can give it a photo name and a description. So I'm not going to do that right now, but you can definitely, in a lot of the questions, we encourage you to have photos. Next question is, are vehicle barriers in place to prevent, that's the question we just answered, sorry. I'm going to say no. Okay, what is the distance between the parking lot and the building entrance? This is because we want to know how far the children are walking after they get off after they get from this non-student parking lot, or in this case, I guess it's not necessarily the children, it's how far are the people who are in the non-student parking lot walking to the building entrance. So I'm going to say over 400 feet. We're going to say it's a long walk. It's actually, in this case, it's actually a good thing for the non-student parking lot to be as far as possible from the building entrance. Of course, those are the kind of things that you don't necessarily control. Is the pickup area and this is the parking area monitored by video surveillance system? We're going to say no. And is there do areas of concealment exist between the parking lot and the student entrance? So that means is there some place that people can hide? Can they, if somebody is walking from the non-student parking lot into the facility, is there a place for somebody to hide and jump out at them and possibly cause harm? We're going to say no. Now, if you say yes, there may be, and again, until all the questions are answered, you don't know what recommendations are going to come out of this. Now, if there are more than one non-student parking lot, you can add another area of this type. So what you do is you select this, and then we could call this, let's say, parking lot number 2, and give it a description. Because if there are questions in here like, what's the distance between the parking lot and the building entrance? Well, if you have 2 non-student parking lots, one might be less than 70% or 70 feet. The other might be over 400 feet. So we want to make sure that we've represented all of the non-student parking lots in this section of the survey. So we're going to say we only have 1 non-student parking lot, so we're going to hide the questions. Okay, now we're going to go on to the bus drop-off area. Now in the bus drop-off area, is the bus drop-off area clearly marked? Now, if you've got documents related to the bus drop-off area, you can upload it. Let's say you had some surveys or something done in the past, and we don't really have any opinion about what documents they are for this section. But if you've got any documents, you can upload them. We also can do photos, so we kind of encourage you to take a picture of the bus drop-off area. That it will always look good in the report. And then any comments about the bus drop-off area and the way that it is clearly marked. So we're going to say that the bus drop-off area is clearly marked. Are unauthorized vehicles prevented from entering the bus drop-off area? Okay, and this really does talk about this is all about the times buses are if it's a dedicated bus drop-off area, then we want unauthorized vehicles to always be prevented from entering that area. If it is an area that is shared, it's a bus drop-off area during drop-off and pickup times, but it's not. We really care about unauthorized vehicles being prevented when buses are dropping people off, unless it's a dedicated area and nobody should be allowed there. So we're going to say they are prevented from entering the bus drop-off area. Are vehicle barriers in place to prevent these authorized vehicles from entering the drop-off area? We're going to say no. Is staff present to assist the students when buses arrive? We're going to say yes. Now, because we answered yes, we're going to get a couple more questions. So as soon as I click yes, you see a little bit of a flicker, and then you see some new questions. And the new question is, has the staff assisting students gone through security training? And we're going to say yes, they have been trained. Are students immediately channeled into the authorized areas or entrances, meaning they can't dilly-dally. They get off the bus, they go straight in. So is there somebody there, and are they channeling the students straight into the entrance area? Okay, what is the distance between the building and the student drop-off area? Again, this is just a background information. It's something we want to know. So in this case, we're going to say it's less than 70 feet. We're going to say they're dropping off the students right at the front entrance. Is the drop-off area monitored by video surveillance system? We're going to say yes. Now, the minute we say that, it's going to ask us a couple of additional questions about our video surveillance system at the bus drop-off area. Okay, what percentage of the bus drop-off area is visible by VSS? Obviously, the best case scenario is that you can see the entire bus drop-off area from the VSS. We're going to say yes. When is that VSS monitored? Is it monitored only before and during the drop-off and departure times? Is it monitored the entire normal school hours? Is it whenever there's any students on campus? So if we've got extracurricular activities going on, we're still monitoring the VSS, and then always at 24/7. So we're going to say whenever there are students on campus, VSS is being monitored. Okay, do areas of concealment exist between the bus drop-off area and the student entrance? Again, we're going to say no, because obviously we don't want there to be areas of concealment where people might jump out and cause harm to the students. Now, just like that last section, down here at the bottom, we can add another bus drop-off area. So if we have more than one bus drop-off area, we would add a second one here. Okay, in this case, we're going to say we don't, so I'm going to just go back up here, and I'm going to hide the questions. Okay, the next section is the automobile drop-off area. So I'm going to hit Show Questions. Okay, same kind of question. Is the automobile area clearly marked? And if, we'd like you to take a picture of the automobile drop-off area if you want to include that in the report. So we're going to say that's yes. Are unauthorized vehicles prevented from entering the drop-off area? So if you're not dropping off students, can you get into the bus drop-off area? We're going to say no. Okay, are vehicle barriers in place to provide unauthorized vehicles from entering the drop-off area? We're going to say yes in this case. Is driver identification required to stop to drop off students from campus, or can just any car drive up? And we're going to say no. Are students immediately channeled to authorized entrances or areas? Meaning the student is dropped off, we want them going straight into the school, or are they just kind of allowed to wander around, ability to go to the playground, that kind of stuff? So we're going to say that they are immediately channeled to authorized areas or entrances. Now, that distance between the building and the student drop-off area, in this case, we're going to say it's less than 70 feet. Is the area monitored? This is just like with the buses. We're going to say yes, it is, and we're going to say it's 100% covered. Same question as with the buses. When is the video surveillance system monitored? We're going to say only during drop-off and departure times. Okay, and then is there an area concealment between the drop-off point and the student entrance? And we're going to say no. Now, again, same thing. If we have more than one student drop-off area, we're going to add another area of this type. But in this case, we're going to say we have one student drop-off area. So we're going to go to the next thing, which is the public transportation stop. Now, this is not one you see. You see it in a lot of the city schools, but you may not have that for rural schools, or maybe you do. So I'm going to show the questions there. Okay. Is the public transportation stop inside the controlled area of the campus? Or is it something that it's almost like the students are walking to school. They're dropped off several blocks away or a block away, and then they walk the remainder of it. So we're going to say that the public transportation stop is not inside the controlled area of the campus. And then we want to know what is the distance between the transportation stop and the campus entrance. Now, this is kind of redundant here because if you said it's inside, then you're going to just say less than 70 feet. If it's outside, it might also be less than 70 feet. In this case, we're going to say it's between 70 and 400 feet. Now, same thing again, though. If we have multiple public transportation stops, we're going to add another area of this type. But in this case, we're going to have one bus stop right outside. Okay, student parking lot. Now, this is our K through 5 school, but in order to show this to you, I'm going to have the student parking lot questions. Okay, is the student parking lot shared with non-students, meaning it's intermingled between parents or faculty, students, maybe visitors are showing there, or is this a dedicated lot? So if it's a dedicated lot, we're going to say no. Must all vehicles be registered with the school? We're going to say yes. Are there vehicle barriers in place? We're going to say no. What is the distance between the parking lot and the building entrance? So we're going to say, in this case, let's just say the students park and walk quite a way. So we're going to say it's over 400 feet. Is the area monitored by VSS? We're going to say no. And does areas of concealment exist between the parking lot and the student entrance? And we are going to say no. Okay, and if there's more than one student parking lot, we would enter it here as an additional student parking lot. Now, the bus departure areas. In a lot of cases, the bus departure areas might be the same as the bus drop-off areas. If they are, you don't need to check this up here. Okay, so if the departure area and the drop-off area are the same, these are questions that are going to be mostly redundant. So we're going to say it is a separate area, and we're going to say it's not marked. Okay, we don't really, let's just say we don't really need it to be marked because that's where the buses are. It's kind of obvious. That's where they're coming from. Are unauthorized vehicles prevented from entering that area? We're going to say yes. Are there vehicle barriers in place to prevent vehicles from entering the departure area? We're going to say no. Is staff present to assist students when buses are loaded? We're going to say yes. And again, if we answer that question yes, it comes down to, has the staff assisting the students gone through security training? Again, that's a yes-no answer. We're going to say that they have, which is a major positive, of course, making sure that, people know how to deal with different things that could happen. What's the distance between the building and the student departure area? We're going to say 70 to 400 feet. Is it monitored by VSS? Again, it's the same thing. If it is monitored, we're going to ask how much of it is monitored and when is it monitored. So we answer those questions, and then that final question that we see in almost every area, which is, do areas of concealment exist? And we're going to say no. Okay, and again, if there is another student drop-off or departure areas, you would add it here so that it is added to this section. Okay, we're on to the last section, last area of this section, which is the automobile pickup area. So this is when you've got parents who are picking up students from school, and how controlled is that? That's what we're asking here. So is the automobile pickup area clearly marked? We're going to say it is. Are unauthorized vehicles prevented from entering the pickup area? And we're going to say yes, they are. Now, again, we can have photos in here and we can have comments. The more you put in here about how different things are handled, the easier it's going to be to generate the final assessment report. And if we're using this assessment report to either get internal fundings to add security countermeasures or to go for grant money, the more information you put in, the better. It's justifying your need. Okay, are vehicle barriers in place? We're going to say no. Is driver identification required to pick up students from the campus? We're going to say yes. Is a list of authorized automobiles maintained? And we're going to say yes. Are the traffic patterns clearly established for automobile pickup, or is it a free-for-all? So we're going to say yes. The distance, again, we're asking, and we're going to say it's between 70 and 400 feet. Again, we're going to ask if it's monitored by VSS. We're going to say yes, and we're going to say 100% is covered, and we're going to say anytime students are on campus, the VSS is monitored. I'm kind of blasting through these because we've seen these questions before. They're just applying to a different part of the survey. Okay, do areas of concealment exist? We're going to say no. Because pretty much if they do exist, one of the recommendations that are going to come out of the report are going to be remove the areas of concealment. Okay, so this is student transportation. Again, security, think of it like an onion. There's different layers of the onion, and in this case, we're starting with student transportation. Then the next thing we're going to talk about is perimeter security.